Recently, Joseph Wood, he was a convicted double murderer. He was put to death in Arizona. 2 hours after the lethal injection needle had been placed in his arm, he was still gasping for breath on the table. And this follows botched executions in Ohio and Oklahoma. So, is lethal injection cruel and unusual? Well, let's start with the basics. 32 states currently have the death penalty. 18, by the way, have voted to abolish. Some, like Michigan, abolished it as early as 1846. Others, like Maryland, far more recently, in 2013. Of the 32 states that have the death penalty, lethal injection is the designated primary method. Although, there are other options in certain states, like electrocution, gas chamber, hanging, and even firing squad. But let's go to the Constitution. The 8th Amendment reads as follows. Excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, now here's the key, nor cruel and unusual punishment inflicted. Keep that in mind. In the mid-19th century, hanging was the predominant form of execution. By 1888, New York became the first state to adopt electrocution. But in 1977, Oklahoma became the first state to adopt lethal injection. And 5 years later, Texas was the first state to use it. On several occasions, the Supreme Court has been asked to invalidate a method of execution. In the 1870s, the Supreme Court held that the firing squad is not cruel and unusual punishment. A little after that, the Supreme Court held that electrocution was also not cruel and unusual punishment. In the 1940s, the Supreme Court said that administering electrocution twice after the first failed attempt is also not cruel and unusual punishment. In 2008, finally, the court found that lethal injection is also allowed. For many of the justices on the Supreme Court, the definition of cruel and unusual punishment is the infliction of pain for the sake of pain. Now, they give specific examples like disembowelment, beheading, public dissection, drawing and quartering, burning alive. If it's not, though, a deliberate infliction of pain, according to the court, it's not cruel and unusual. But let's say, for the sake of argument, okay, that it was constitutional to behead someone. Would it be constitutional to not care about the sharpness of the blade and have to drop it like 5 times to execute someone? That's essentially what lawyers who are opposed to lethal injection are arguing. The court, so far, does not agree. There may be moral questions, religious questions, ethical questions regarding capital punishment, regarding lethal injection. But in the eyes of the Supreme Court, capital punishment, and specifically lethal injection, does not constitute cruel and unusual punishment.